UFC Vegas 68. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Sergey Spivac versus Derek Lewis. We're going to talk about each of the matchups on the card. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. And let's jump into the first fight of the night. Tatsuro Taira and Jesus Aguilar. All day, Tatsuro Taira. I think he wins this fight. His grappling skill set is definitely better than Aguilar. Even though I consider Aguilar to be a pretty decent wrestler, super short T-Rex arms, that's girl reach, 62.5 inches. It definitely limits his game in the stand-up. He does a pretty decent job of closing the gap with punches, then looking for takedowns. But even if he's shooting those double legs, you look at Aguilar's last fight, was nearly caught in a guillotine against a guy that doesn't have near the submission skills of Taira. I think Tatsuro Taira win by sub, and I really feel like he's the Japanese prospect we need to keep an eye on. As far as the lines for this fight here, Taira is a disgustingly wide -1,000 favorite. Aguilar +800. Listen, guys, I will be shocked if Aguilar somehow pulls this off. I really think Taira is probably the next big thing, especially from Japan. I see him as a future flyweight contender, maybe a champion, but like 100%, he right now looks like he could be at the worst a top 8 guy in the world. I love what I'm seeing. I'm going Taira by submission, extremely high confidence, but the bet's ugly, -1,000. The bookies agree, and he's like lock of the week type situation, and the lines reflect that. Super wide. Next fight of the night. Things get interesting in this matchup with Jeong Yeong Park versus Denis Tiuliulin. I'm picking Tiuliulin in this fight. I think that he has more punching power. Park does have pretty good boxing skills, mixes in takedowns well, and normally can keep pretty good pressure on his opponents. Tiuliulin's the bigger guy of the two. He has the longer wingspan. I really feel like the KO power is going to come in handy in this fight. Tiuliulin is somebody that likes to brawl. Park is also somebody who's willing to engage in brawls. Was stopped by Gregory Rodriguez, standing TKO, but still was hurt badly with punches. Tiuliulin has some real knockout power. I think he's going to hurt Jeong Yeong Park later in this fight and get a KO here, and I feel like it will come with probably a fairly competitive first round. I could see Tiuliulin starting to get bigger moments in the second and then closing the show in round 3. I'm going to go Tiuliulin to knock out Jeong Yeong Park. The more wide and wild-ish style of striking with a pressure brawler attack, as opposed to Park, who's a more calculated pressure fighter. I just see him getting caught, especially the reach difference is a factor. And the also real truth is Park hits with a bit of sting, but I wouldn't call him a heavy-handed fighter, whereas on the opposite side, Tiuliulin has KO power, and I think he'll close the show. As far as the betting odds for this fight, Park's the favorite, -195, Tiuliulin +180. I got to go underdog Denis Tiuliulin. He hasn't looked bad in his 2 UFC fights. I mean, the first one, he fights Aliasab Kizriev, big prospect from Russia. Come on, like, you knew it was kind of a squash match, and he put out a pretty decent show. Beats Jamie Pickett in the next one. You look at Park's last fight, he beat Ugly Man Holmes, not a major win, and then before that, split decision, real close fight with Eric Anders. I see Denis Tiuliulin's hand raised at the end of this fight, and I'm going to call it by KO. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, Ji-Yoon Kim versus Mandy Böhm. You got to pick Ji-Yoon Kim here. Mandy Böhm looked bad in her first 2 fights in the UFC. Okay stand-up, but really no sting on her punches. I don't know. I don't feel like she has great reflexes. What she brings to the table is length. What is she met with here? A girl with an inch more of reach. So the biggest advantage Böhm normally has on her competition is out the window here. The pick is Kim to get the win. I think that she's going to get it done. I'm leaning at decision, though. I really feel like she can put her punches together fairly well, but to get a knockout, I do respect the durability of Böhm. I feel like the boxing skill set of Kim is better, and she also is quicker, and I also feel like Mandy Böhm is maybe not all that great. The hype coming in at 7-0 was real, but what we have seen has not been great. I mean, you look at the records, right? 9-6-2. People can easily be swayed to go the Böhm side as the underdog, but I don't think she has great resistance to the attack of Kim. I see Kim outlanding her, more significant strikes. I think she's the physically stronger girl too, and if she wants to, maybe even lands takedown. So I'm going Kim, win, decision. And I think this fight should be a pretty clean W for Ji-Yoon Kim. She is a big favorite here, too. She's sitting at around minus 252. Mandy Böhm at plus 235. I like Kim's chances a ton here. That minus 250 range, wide for sure. She's more than, 1 to 2 favor, or whatever, 2 to 1 favor, excuse me. But very winnable fight for her. And I don't think Mandy Böhm is UFC level. So Kim for the win, and it's high confidence on my end. Let's keep moving up the card. Next matchup, it brings us to the road to the UFC flyweight finale. We got all the road to the UFC finals. And I'm excited for this matchup a lot. Hyun Sung Park is my pick. I'm picking him over Seung Choi. I like Park's chances, man. I think he looked pretty good in his 2 fights on the road to the UFC. Obviously was dropped in the most recent one. But he was fighting a very dangerous Thai fighter he had also trained with in the past, was able to find the submission. Park is known more for the striking game, but actually has pretty well-timed takedowns, does have submission skills on the opposite side. I kind of feel Choi brings kind of a similar skill set, but definitely less power, definitely less physical strength. He's also a little bit smaller than his opponent, Park, and I really think Park is going to finish him off. I'm thinking KO win for Hyun Sung Park. I think it's going to be impressive. Muay Thai background, he's quick, athletic, and I actually feel like Park could develop into a decent player in the 125-pound division. I see him beating Choi pretty cleanly here. I'm going to go knockout. I could see it in the first or second round. But don't be surprised if Park decides to mix in the grappling and maybe is even able to strangle Choi. Let's see. Park is around minus 180 as the favorite. Choi sitting at around plus 172. I like the chance for Park to get the hand raised. And I like it inside of the distance. Knock out the official pick. But submission wouldn't blow my mind. This should be a pretty one-sided fight. Looking forward to Park, though. Next fight on the card, it brings us to the bantamweight road to the UFC finale. Rinya Nakamura versus Toshiomi Kazama. Listen, Nakamura is the fucking villain in the Asian action movies. He's a monster. I like him a lot. I'm picking him to win here. Kazama had, kind of, I don't want to say an easy route into the finals because his opponent missed weight. It's not on him, but he didn't have to do that final test, whereas Nakamura beat through some solid competition, gets himself now into this huge opportunity to be inside of the UFC, just 6-0, but seems to have the goods, man. Southpaw stance, very power-heavy striking game, but also is a strong wrestler. He's got a wrestling base, but he's like so athletic and light on his feet. The way that he moves, you guys are going to see on Saturday, you're going to say, wow, this kid's got some serious potential. Super young in the game, just 6 fights, but the wrestling chops, the way that he's able to develop like real knockout power at the lighter weight classes is impressive, man. I think he's going to beat Kazama. Where I look at Kazama's best chance will be to be on the floor and somehow find the back of Nakamura, but the superior wrestler, the superior physical strength, the superior striking. Listen, I think he's going to get destroyed here. I think it's going to be Nakamura beat down, probably first round KO for Rinya Nakamura. And keep your eyes on him, guys. I like him a lot. Fun style, and he's a fucking beast, man. He looks like a villain, I'm telling you. Next fight on the card, Zha Yi versus Jeong Yeong Lee. Listen, this kid, Jeong Yeong Lee, he's dangerous. I call him a kid, but he is 27. He's not young. He's got a good skill set, man. Mean right hand, submission skills. Both of his wins on the road to the UFC, he's literally killing the guys in under a minute. Yi in the last fight, he didn't look awful. He's in a competitive decision, but doesn't seem to have the goods like his opponent. I think that Lee's going to be way too much. He's too powerful on the feet. I think the submission skill set and the striking is just going to be too much for Yi to climb through. Like, if you look at Yi, I like the 1-2s. I like the wide stance kickboxing. You can tell some traditional martial arts background there in the mix there. He's a Chinese fighter, so obviously that's a big part of the culture. But he's fighting Jeong Yeong Lee, who's a monster. I think he's getting knocked out in the first round. So Jeong Yeong Lee, first round KO. Might be a straight shot right on the money. He can beat people up on the floor too. The kid's really fucking good. And I think he's going to continue that success with stoppages. And I'm going to call first round, but I could see it first or second. As far as the lines for this fight right here, minus 250 for Lee. Yi is sitting at plus 217. Yeah, we're riding Jeong Yeong Lee all the way to get himself UFC contract. Huge opportunity, featherweight finale. There's some killers coming through this road to the UFC, and I think that this kid, Jeong Yeong Lee, definitely one of them. Let's keep running, and let's jump to the final road to the UFC matchup. Lightweights, Anshul Jubli versus Jeka Saragih. This is an interesting fight, and one that I was sitting on for a bit. I came to the conclusion I got to go Jubli. I do feel like he can control the pace better, and the way that he digs to the body, I think that's a factor in this fight. Jeka Saragih, powerful. Stance switches, throws heavy shots, but sometimes wide and off balance, whereas Jubli is more tight. I think that he's a little bit more technical, but it's MMA, cage fighting. It's not always about the perfect technique. It's about execution. I think Jubli will execute well. Body attack is going to be serious here. He needs to dig at the body and also look to clinch, look to hold Saragih, especially the smaller cage. We're at the apex. Use that to tire out his arms. This kid's very powerful. I think knockout power, Saragih. Overall skill set, I think Jubli. And that's why I'm going to call him to win by a decision. I'm thinking he's going to get it done. I think first round might go Saragih, and then Jubli takes over in the second and third. And the body attack is going to be a huge key to victory in this matchup. Something I think Jubli can do well. He dug to the body real nice in the last one. Straights to the body. Hooks to the body. The skill set's really good on this dude. As far as the odds, we got pick'ems. About -110 for each of these guys. Near even lines. I mean, they might be shifted a little bit one way or the other. But it's a pick'ems matchup. I'm going Jubli to get it done. I'll say he does it by a decision. He's dealing with a powerhouse on the other side, though. So it is a fucking fight. These road to the UFC matches actually have me pretty stoked. Let's keep running. And let's get to the main card. That finishes out the prelims. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Yusaku Kinoshita versus Adam Fugitt. Listen, I think Kinoshita is going to knock Fugitt out. I just feel like Fugitt's a little bit too stiff, isn't super quick, doesn't have great reflexes, a decently well-rounded fighter. He took down Michael Morales. I mean, that's a win. He took him down. He didn't win the fight. He got beaten up in there. He gets hit with straight shots down the line. And Kinoshita rips some beautiful straight punches. I think that's a big problem. Both guys are southpaws, so southpaw versus southpaw match is going to be interesting. I feel like with Kinoshita being from the Eastern Hemisphere, could be a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but I've heard this, and I definitely have noticed it with fighters from that region, more likely to be southpaw, so I will, imply that he's trained and been alongside more southpaws than Adam Fugitt probably has. I like the chances of Kinoshita winning by a knockout, closes the gap well, pretty solid with the stand-up, beat a real tall guy in the Contender Series. Fugitt, I think he's going to get touched up bad, knocked out. I'm going to call KO win in a fight that should be a banger because Fugitt comes to fight. But Kinoshita will be the one walking out the UFC Apex with a W. As far as the odds here, Kinoshita -277, Fugitt at +270. Fugitt, bro. We're going Kinoshita. I don't think Fugitt does it. I don't think he's got a shot here. Next fight on the card. Oh, shit. Choi, Kyle Nelson. After a 3-year hiatus serving in the Korean military, Choi is back, and I think he's coming back with a vengeance. The Korean Zombie, when he came back from that military tour, he came out guns a-blazing and looked better than ever. Choi is a guy who takes a lot of damage. You look at the last 3 fights, all losses, all knockouts, all fights where he got hit a lot. You look at this matchup still. All right, decision, Cub Swanson. Excuse me, wrong it out. But he took a lot of shots 6 years ago. Holy shit. Decision to Cub, loses, takes a lot of damage. Knocked out by Jeremy Stephens, loses, takes a lot of damage. Charles Jourdain, loses, takes a lot of damage. Knocked out. All those fights, though, he put up a good fight, and they were super entertaining. Choi is one of those people that don't stop, just comes with fire, fire, fire. He's a great brawler, but he is pretty quick, athletic, and he does have good technical skills. I just think he took a fuckload of damage, and maybe that was, continuing the issue or continuing to be an issue for him. I think this layoff is better. I think he comes back right now and beats Kyle Nelson. Now, I'm not overly impressed by Kyle Nelson, 1-4 in his last 5. You look at the last fight, Jai Herbert beats him. Granted, Herbert's pretty good. Billy Q knocks him out, and you can see a win over Polo Reyes, but I think that Doo-ho Choi is going to be too much, man. That wild, aggressive style actually is going to work well, man. Kyle Nelson's not going to be able to deal with that heat. You look at Kyle Nelson, you see pretty solid Muay Thai. I like his low kicks a lot, but I see him caught by wide punches by Choi. I do think Choi's going to control the pace of this fight, and it's going to be one that Nelson's not going to be able to keep up with. So I'm going to go Choi by knockout in the second or third round. He's back with a vengeance. And we got somebody to keep an eye on in this division, at least as far as the entertainment value goes, because I don't think there's ever going to be a boring Doo-ho Choi fight. I hope this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. I don't believe it will. I'll double down. It's not gonna. Doo-ho Choi is always entertaining, and I think he comes back with maybe the fight of the night here, and he also wins by KO. Minus 180, Choi. Plus 170, Kyle Nelson. Doo-ho Choi for the victory, guys. Cannot wait for the comeback. Next fight on the card, it is the featured bout of the night. Marcin Tybura versus Blagoy Ivanov. Don't you just jump up and down with excitement when you see Blagoy Ivanov on a card? No, nobody does. I don't. Sorry, Blagoy. I got a lot of respect for Blagoy, but I really find him just to be a little bit of a dull fighter through his UFC run. I liked him outside of the UFC, the World Series of Fighting, the Bellator career. In the UFC, you know what you get from Blagoy. Kind of a plodding style. Marcin Tybura, not a super athlete by any means. I do think Tybura finds a way to win this fight on the cards. I think he's got a little bit quicker hands. I do think between the two, at this point, I know Blagoy Ivanov is younger than Tybura, but I think he's farther past his prime. Tybura's looked good. I believe in his last 7, he's 6-1. Blagoy's still winning some fights. He won the last fight against Dilima. 2 losses prior to that. But it's not like these are terrible losses. Sakai split decision is what it is. Derek Lewis split decision is what it is. I think Marcin Tybura will land better punches. I think there'll be a lot of clinching. It's going to almost look like 2 big walruses just smashing into each other for a lot of this fight. Because let's be honest, these guys are a little bit on the chubbier side. I think Tybura will lose some of the clinch battles early, but then later will have more success. And then Tybura will take the second, third round, and I'm thinking Marcin Tybura by a decision. One thing you got to say, Tybura is resilient as hell. You look at matches, he took damage against a Walt Harris, against a Greg Hardy, comes back, overcomes it, gets himself wins, and even the last fight, Alexander Romanov, who the UFC is trying to build, still putting him in there against Volkov. Tybura did well. Tybura was able to come on strong, win the second and third round, get himself a majority decision. Now, also note this. Look at the size difference. 6'3" to 5'11". I know Tybura is chubby, so he looks shorter. He's a tall dude. 78-inch reach, 73. From the outside, Tybura is going to have a boxing advantage. It's very rare that I'm telling anybody Tybura has a striking edge, especially pure boxing. But he's got one here. I think he can outbox Blagoy Ivanov for 3 rounds. I do think he's going to be forced to clinch up a bit. He'll find ways to separate, and he'll find ways to land significant strikes. So, Marcin Tybura to win the bout, decision. As far as the odds, minus 143, so it's around minus 140 for Tybura. Ivanov, plus 135. I like the chances Marcin Tybura gets his hand raised. He beats Blagoy Ivanov, and I'll call it by a decision. Co-main event of the evening. Da-Un Jung versus Devin Clark. Both guys looking to bounce back after KO losses. I'm picking Da-Un Jung to win the fight because I think he's got a way higher fight IQ than a Devin Clark, even though I think Devin Clark is a beast athlete. Very physically strong, pretty decent wrestling, striking. I mean, he throws hard shots, but it's not super technical. If he lands, it hurts. But I also see Un Jung's striking capabilities as vastly more technical. I think he'll find the target here. And something that I do give Jung credit for is that fight IQ. I think that he'll have a game plan to pick apart a Devin Clark. I think from the outside, striking advantage all day is Da-Un Jung. He's a taller guy by 4 inches. He's got a bit of a reach advantage, 3.5. I think the boxing skill's a lot better. I think he'll even rip body shots. I feel like Da-Un Jung, because of the leverage with the height difference, is going to be hard for Devin Clark to really take control of. And I think Da-Un Jung third round knockout is pretty live in this fight. Might happen even earlier, but I'm thinking it's a little bit later. Clark comes hard as he always does in that first round. And then you'll see Un Jung weather that storm, break him down, pick him apart, and stop him. So I'm going Un Jung to win via knockout. And I think he gets back on track, man. Dustin Jacoby knocked him out cold, brutally. I think he can come back and beat Devin Clark, though. As far as the odds, Un Jung, minus 220. Devin Clark about plus 200. Jung deserves to be the favorite here. He's the better fighter. If Devin Clark is able to win this fight, he's got to use a crazy pressure grappling style, get on top, unload some ferocious ground and pound, or maybe just land some perfect punch. I don't want to say a fluky shot, but he might need to land something that Jung didn't see coming as he was closing the gap. I don't think he does. Jung's going to pick him apart and knock him out. Jung for the win by KO. Exciting fight. Main event. Make sure you guys smash the like button if you haven't. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivac. I've broke this card down before, this fight down before, and I picked Derek Lewis. I'm not straying away from that, especially seeing that Derek Lewis is leaning up a little bit. He's doing a lot of cardio. Sergey Spivac has been knocked out by guys with serious KO power. Recent name that comes to mind, you're probably thinking, right? It's Tom Aspinall. Oh, but he's so well-rounded. True. Walt Harris flatlined him, knocked him out early. Yeah, it was like, new into the UFC for him. But Derek Lewis does pretty well against grapplers. He did a good job flatlining Curtis Blades, who's an absolute monster of a wrestler, was able to avoid those takedown attempts. Sure, Spivac is going to look to clinch up, especially in the apex. This cage is going to be small. But it's also going to be Derek Lewis is not going to be too far from his chin. And it takes one shot from Derek Lewis, whereas Spivac might drag Lewis to the floor, hold him there, and be unable to submit him. Let's be honest. Derek Lewis is not an easy guy to put in submissions. He's a big human being who's very fucking strong. He doesn't use great technique. He'll just push you off of him and stand up. He's been in there with top-level fighters. Sergey Spivac is pretty good, but I think Derek Lewis has the tools to beat a Sergey Spivac. If you get taken down, I think that he'll find a way up to his feet. His physical strength will push him off, find a way to stand. Even if he stays on the ground, I don't see Spivac then finishing him unless he somehow mounts some ground and pounds him. But I just can't see Derek Lewis getting beaten the shit out of like that. I think Derek Lewis on the feet, that power is going to be real. I think he'll find that Spivac chin, and I think he's going to knock him out. I could see it in the first round. I think Derek Lewis is still alive. I know we're forgetting about him and writing him off, but let's think about the losses for a second. Sergey Pavlovich, who's an absolute killer, caught him early. Weird stoppage is what it is. Tai Tuivasa, straight brawling banger with the crazy-ass chin, is able to absorb so much damage from Ciryl Gane, from Derek Lewis, and then obviously now the chin seems to have faded. He needs a nice break after Pavlovich flatlined him. Then you look, the loss before that is Ciryl Gane, who's technically speaking, I'd say skill set wise striking, the best heavyweight we've ever seen. He moves like he's 185 pounds. Sergey Spivac is more of a plodding striker. Derek Lewis needs one shot to put him on his ass. I think he'll find it, and he's going to knock out Sergey Spivac. So we're going Derek Lewis to get the win. Plus 195 underdog, Derek Lewis. That's big dog money. I think he's still got a shot. Minus 220, Sergey Spivac, the favorite. I'm riding with Derek Lewis. Overall, guys, UFC Vegas 68, it's not a bad card. It just starts at a really bad time for me on the East Coast. 1 a.m. start. Still doing the full fight companion for it. I guess the full card starts at 10. This is the main card at 1 a.m. I'll be live for the whole thing. Come join me late night for that. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know who your picks are in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have nothing to say, as always, drop a W in the chat. Smash the like, subscribe, turn the post notifications on. You don't want to miss a video. Plenty of content dropping all week. Thank you guys, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.